There are 10 watch brands sitting on millions of wrists right now that have absolutely no business calling themselves luxury. And the markups are criminal. I'm not talking about cheap knockoffs you'd find at a flea market. I'm talking about brands with polished websites, celebrity endorsements, and price tags that scream premium, while the guts inside your watch cost less than your morning coffee. If you've spent anywhere between $100 and $500 on a watch in the last 5 years, there is a very real chance you're on this list. And by the end of this, you're going to know exactly who's been lying to you. Here's what most people don't realize about the watch industry. The gap between what you pay and what's actually strapped to your wrist has never been wider. We're living in the golden age of watch marketing. Brands don't need master watchmakers anymore. They need Instagram campaigns. They need influencer unboxings. They need a font that looks expensive and a product page that says words like craftsmanship and heritage without meaning either of them. I've spent years digging through bill of materials reports, factory sourcing documentation, and independent teardown analyses. I've talked to watchmakers who repair these things for a living, people who crack open the casebacks and see what you're never supposed to see. What I've found is a pattern so consistent, it's almost insulting. Brands spend 4, 5, sometimes 20 times more on marketing than they spend on the actual watch you're wearing. And the worst part, they're banking on the fact that you'll never check, that you'll never ask what movement is inside, that water resistant and a shiny dial is enough to keep you quiet. Today, that changes. We're going through 10 brands, ranked from bad to absolutely shameless, and I'm showing you exactly where your money went. Spoiler, it wasn't into your watch. Let's start with the brands that are coasting on a name you've heard 1,000 times, without earning it once. Number 10. Guess. You know the name from jeans, handbags, maybe a perfume bottle on your dresser. But Guess watches are the textbook definition of logo tax. The average Guess timepiece retails between $120 and $300. Crack one open, and you're looking at a basic Miyota or generic Chinese quartz movement that costs roughly $3 to $4 to source. The cases are alloy. The crystals are mineral glass, not sapphire. According to multiple teardown reports from independent hobbyists, the total bill of materials on most Guess watches lands somewhere around $11 to $15. You're not buying a watch. You're buying a triangle logo. And that triangle is doing about $270 worth of heavy lifting. Number 9. Diesel. Diesel built its watch reputation on one thing: size. These oversized, aggressive-looking pieces retail anywhere from $150 to $400, and they look like something a Marvel villain would wear. But behind the industrial aesthetic, the same mass-produced Miyota quartz you'd find in a $40 Casio. The difference is, Casio doesn't pretend to be luxury. Diesel does. Based on component analysis from watch repair communities, you're looking at roughly $12 to $18 in materials wrapped in a case designed to distract you from asking questions. The brand licensed its name to Fossil Group, which we'll get to. And that licensing model means you're paying a premium for a fashion label's permission slip, not for watchmaking. Number 8. Armani Exchange, Emporio Armani. Take your pick. They're both licensed through the same pipeline, and neither of them has anything to do with actual horology. An Armani Exchange watch runs between $100 and $250. The movement inside? A standard Miyota 2035 quartz, which wholesales for under $3. The finishing on the dial looks fine in photos, less fine under a loupe. These are fashion accessories priced as if Giorgio himself hand-assembled them in Milan. He didn't. A factory in Shenzhen did, and the margin on these pieces, based on industry estimates, is somewhere north of 90%. That's not luxury. That's a licensing fee you're wearing on your wrist. Number 7. Hugo Boss. This one stings because the brand carries genuine weight in menswear. But Hugo Boss watches are another licensed product. Again, manufactured by a third-party group using commodity movements and dressed up with brand prestige. Retail prices hover between $150 and $350. The movements are identical to what you'll find in watches at a quarter of the price. The sapphire crystal you might expect at this range? Mineral glass? The leather strap that feels premium out of the box? Give it 6 months. According to forums like WatchUSeek, the consensus among collectors is nearly unanimous. These are a $100 watch. At best, marked up for the name on the dial. If you bought one because you trust Hugo Boss suits, that trust was misplaced the moment it hit your wrist. Number 6. Nixon. Originally a surf and skate lifestyle brand, Nixon carved out a niche by looking different. Bold colors, chunky cases, designs that stood out. And for a while that identity had real value. But the pricing? $150 to $500 hasn't kept pace with what's actually inside. Most Nixon watches use Miyota or basic Swiss Ronde quartz movements. Nothing wrong with those movements at a fair price. But Nixon charges a lifestyle premium that the internals simply don't justify. The brand's own marketing emphasizes aesthetics and culture, which is a polite way of saying engineering isn't the selling point. For what Nixon charges at the upper end, you could own a Seiko Presage with a genuine automatic movement, exhibition case back, and finishing that embarrasses everything in Nixon's lineup. Now, if any of this is opening your eyes to how this industry really works, consider subscribing. This is what we do here. Strip away the marketing and show you what's left. And sometimes, what's left isn't pretty. Now we get into the brands that aren't just overcharging. They're actively engineering an illusion, so convincing that millions of people defend them without ever checking the receipts. Number 5. Michael Kors. The fashion watch empire. Michael Kors watches dominate department store display cases and retail between $150 and $400. They look the part. Rose gold tones, oversized dials, that I've made it aesthetic. But here's the math. According to estimates based on Fossil Group's own financial disclosures, because yes, Fossil manufactures these too, the average cost of goods for a licensed fashion watch in their portfolio is between $8 and $20. Let's be generous and call it $25 for some of the higher-end MK pieces. You're paying $350. The watch cost $25 to make. That's a markup somewhere around 1,300%. And none of that margin went into the movement, which is the same quartz module you'd find in a $15 Walmart watch. What did it go into? Marketing, licensing fees. That display case at Macy's, you funded all of it. Number 4. MVMT. This is where it gets personal for a lot of people, because MVMT was built specifically to target millennials who wanted a luxury look without a luxury price. Launched on Indiegogo, grew through Instagram ads, and was acquired by Movado Group for roughly $100 million. Their watches retail between $95 and $200. The pitch? Cutting out the middleman. The reality? According to multiple independent analyses, the bill of materials on an MVMT watch is somewhere between $5 and $12. The movements are bottom-tier Chinese quartz. The mineral glass scratches within weeks. And that cutting out the middleman narrative, they replaced it with a different middleman. A social media ad budget that reportedly consumed over 40% of their revenue in their growth years. You weren't cutting out anything. You were the marketing budget. Number 3. Vinthero. If MVMT wrote the playbook, Vinthero photocopied it and added bolder fonts. Same direct-to-consumer model, same Instagram-heavy marketing, same breathless copy about Italian marble dials and surgical-grade steel. Vinthero watches range from $150 to $300, and they lean hard into aspirational. Language designed to make you feel like you're buying up. But watch repair professionals who've opened these up consistently report the same thing. Low-grade Chinese automatic or quartz movements, mediocre finishing, and quality control that wouldn't survive scrutiny at half the price. One watchmaker I came across described a Vinthero automatic as a $40 watch, in a very convincing costume. And those Italian marble dials? A thin veneer applied cosmetically. It's theater. Expensive theater. Number 2. Daniel Wellington. Perhaps the single greatest magic trick in modern watch marketing? Daniel Wellington built a billion-dollar brand selling watches that cost, and I need you to hear this number clearly, between $2 and $4 to manufacture. That's not an exaggeration. That's based on sourcing analysis, factory documentation, and the simplicity of what's inside. A Miyota 2035 quartz movement, a plain dial, a NATO or leather strap, and a polished steel case. Total bill of materials, under $5 generously. Retail price, $150 to $229. The markup is somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000%. Daniel Wellington's genius wasn't watchmaking. It was influencer marketing at a scale the industry had never seen. At their peak, they were reportedly working with over 30,000 Instagram influencers. You weren't buying a watch. You were buying the most expensive photograph of a wrist that has ever existed. Number 1, Invicta. And here we are. The brand that has turned fake luxury into an art form. And not the kind that belongs in a museum. Invicta's entire business model is built on a psychological trick so transparent, it's almost impressive. List a watch at $995. Permanently discount it to $79.99. Make the customer feel like they just pulled off the heist of the century. Except the watch was never worth $995. It was never worth $400. Based on teardown reports and materials analysis, most Invicta watches, particularly their Pro Diver and Speedway lines, use Japanese Miyota, or Seiko NH35 movements housed in cases that cost between $8 and $20 to produce. The total manufacturing cost on their most popular models, $15 to $30. But Invicta doesn't just overcharge, they gaslight. Their retail prices are fictional anchors designed to make the deal feel irresistible. The shopping channel and Amazon listings are covered in crossed-out prices that never existed in any real marketplace. It's not discounted, it's manufactured urgency wrapped in a fake price tag. And if you own a drawer full of Invicta watches, you got on sale, I'm sorry, but the only thing on discount was the truth. So here's where all of this lands. Every single brand on this list shares one thing in common. They understood something fundamental about human psychology. People don't buy watches. They buy feelings. They buy the feeling of success, of taste, of belonging to a club. And these brands built entire empires by selling that feeling, while spending as little as humanly possible on the actual object strapped to your wrist. That's not innovation. That's exploitation of trust. But here's the thing that should actually make you angry. The watch industry is filled, genuinely filled, with brands offering extraordinary value at every price point. Seiko has been building automatic movements that outperform watches 5 times their price for decades. Orient gives you an in-house movement and sapphire crystal for under $200. Casio's G-Shock line is practically indestructible for $60. Tissot, Citizen, Marathon. These are brands that put the money into the watch, not the ad campaign. The options exist. They've always existed. But they don't have 30,000 influencers posting wrist shots at golden hour. So what do you do with this? First, check the movement. If a brand can't tell you exactly what's inside, that's your answer. Second, ignore the retail price. Look at what the watch actually offers in materials, movement, and build quality. Compare it against known benchmarks. Third, be skeptical of any brand whose marketing budget appears to be its primary product. If you see the watch more often in ads than in watchmaker forums, something is off. Fourth, buy for the engineering, not the emotion. A watch should earn its price through what it does, not how it makes you feel in the checkout line. And fifth, remember that real luxury doesn't need to convince you. It just needs to outlast everything else in your drawer. The brands on this list bet everything on the idea that you'd never look behind the curtain, that you'd stay impressed by the box, the logo, the crossed-out price. But now you know what the curtain's hiding, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Drop which brand on this list surprised you the most, or which one you unfortunately own. I read every comment, and honestly, the stories some of you share are wilder than anything I could script. If this saved you from a bad purchase, or confirmed something you already suspected, subscribing takes 1 second, and it means we keep doing this. Next week, we're tearing into an industry even more shameless than watches. You're not going to want to miss it.